Well, our next guest is a band that's been a part of the soundtrack to so many faith journeys, from days of the youth groups to quiet moments of prayer. We have none other than Sanctus Real. They have hits like Lead Me, My God Is Still the Same, and Confidence, to name a few. They're raw, honest songwriting that points us straight to Jesus. These guys have been doing it now for over 2 decades, I guess, and still going strong. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And heads up, my friend, it's Chris and Mark don't want to say this, but I will. But it's been almost 3 decades at this point.
So you guys started when you were 10?
Yeah.
Close.
Close.
Chris was 16 and I was 18 when we started.
Wow.
So yeah, we were just kids.
Was there any child labor laws, Chris, that were going?
A little more lax in the 90s, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into our conversation. We're here to talk about your all's new songs that you guys are releasing. Let's talk about the difference.
What do you want to talk about, man? We love it.
Let's talk about the song. Let's talk about the heart behind it, and the concept and what you guys are working on and all that good stuff.
Yeah, the song actually began with a Chris Rohman riff. He was vibing, and he sending some tracks to me to listen to, and it was a very cool vibe. It was a different tuning, and it was kind of unique to what we've been doing. I remember that, thinking he's onto something. And we've been writing a lot of songs recently that have centered around just singing of hope, because we, in our experience, we just travel the country and we see a lot of people, talk to a lot of people, hear a lot of stories, and the one thing that we feel like people are missing is they feel hopeless. I mean, we live in a world where if you are on your phone or on television, watching television, it's easy to feel hopeless. There just doesn't seem to be a lot of hope out there. So we felt very strongly over the last couple of years that this was our direction. And, we always have these conversations before we write about the message that, we feel like are important, that God wants us to speak. And this is a song I think is kind of unique in the sense that it kind of turned itself into a worship song. It wasn't intentional. We weren't sitting down writing a worship song. And I think it's kind of a unique thing, the way this worked, because it was just a song declaring that the only thing that makes us hopeful or brings us hope, that creates a difference between who we were and who we are, is Jesus, right? Like, it is the belief, the defining factor of a hopeful Christian's life. The only difference is Jesus. And so we started from this perspective of what makes us different than somebody else who's lacking hope. And I think it's cool because it went from like a CCM vibe that we were thinking into we're just going to sing this to him and declare it to him that you are the difference. And so this cool riff turned into what is turning into kind of a cool worship song. And I think I would say it's one of my favorite songs that I've been a part of with the band. It's a lot of fun. It's a great song to do live. But it was a cool little process of watching this cool riff turn into a unique idea that turned into kind of a worship idea without us even trying.
Yeah. Do you guys enjoy playing this song live? Because when we talk to artists, sometimes like when they're in the studio, they're like, okay, how could we do this live? And how's this going to sound live? Is that something that you guys think of ahead of time, or is it you just go with it?
I always think of it. I'll let the other guys, but I'll tell you, as a singer, like, I'm always like, how is this going to feel? Is it too high to sing every night? But we started acoustic, and it was magical, just acoustic. And I'll let, because I think when this song was written with the thing, it was such a cool riff. It's kind of that makes it cool even live. So I'll let Chris jump in there.
I remember the first time we played it live. I think it was at that amphitheater outdoor
Yeah.
show we had, right? Was that in New Jersey?
Oh my goodness.
I think it was.
Maybe.
Yeah, so we wrote the song and it happened pretty quickly and it had kind of the rhythm to it from the start. And I think the rhythm and just that proclamation in the chorus, like right when the chorus hits, you are the difference, you are the change. Like, I think that first time we actually played it in front of people, it was just literally an acoustic guitar. I think Mark might have had a shaker and
Hmm.
Dustin on a wireless microphone. And we just asked the crowd if we could play them a brand new song and they were into it. And by the time we got to the last chorus, people were singing along to it. And it really shocked me, because I think in that moment I realized like this is like a proclamation worth singing at the top of your lungs if you're a believer. And I remember feeling that, just happening in that moment, like, whoa, we're all in agreement here. And this is cool because people were excited. And after the song was over, it's like they kind of wanted to keep singing it. And you would think after all these years of doing what we do, that would be, I don't want to say commonplace, but you might be accustomed to that happening. And for us, maybe it's different for other artists, but for us, I think we're always still surprised when people latch on to our songs, and especially when they've never heard it before. And we're just playing it, we just wrote it that week and we're just playing it for the first time. So
Yeah.
I love that that's becoming evident that it is a chorus. It's a song that hopefully people will catch on to and feel like it's something they can declare for themselves. And we are planning on going to radio with it here at some point. So I'm really hopeful that it does, the song does grow and become something that the church will sing.
And another song that I really like is On the Mend. Can you tell us about that song and the heart behind it?
Yeah, I'm looking at Chris is like tiny in my picture, so I can't even make eye contact with him to be like, "Hey, dude, you want to take this one?"
Yeah.
So,
It's
go ahead.
cool. I actually just did an interview. Was it today? Or maybe it was this morning, or maybe it was yesterday. I can't keep it straight now. It's just funny. All I know is I was late to that interview, which I never am. I felt so bad. Our manager had to call me and be like, dude, you picked up the phone. You're supposed to be on an interview right now. I'm like, I am? And it was really talking about this other song called On the Mend. So after that interview was over, I was like, there's a few things I wanted to talk about that I forgot. So uh, this is a song, when you write as a band, song starts all happen in different ways. And this was during a writing trip we had last year where I came to Nashville and we got in a room with some friends to write throughout that week. And this was at the end of that week. We had kind of exhausted our musical ideas and we were with a brand new producer we had never worked with. And he had some ideas and some tracks he played for us. And this was one of 3 tracks he played. And I was really into it just from the moment I heard it. I loved it. And it's very seldom that like I feel this strong about an idea or a lyric specifically. But when he played that song and everybody agreed, okay, let's work on this track and turn this into something. Just that very first line of the first verse kind of hit me. And I think it was something that I wasn't even sure where it was going to lead or maybe even what I was intending for it to do in the structure of a song. But that first line, I thought there was something wrong with me. I did my best. It's kind of this self-confession, I guess. If you dig deeper in the lyrics, it's this kind of conversation I'm having in my mind, at least as we're writing the song, about all these things that maybe I've tried, whether it's counseling, to overcome these things in my life that maybe I didn't even know I was dealing with, only to find that like the real answer to finding any kind of healing in my life or in my heart is just through a relationship with Jesus. And that's an ongoing process. It's not like, oh, I'm struggling with this thing today, I'm going to pray about it and it's all going to get better. it's this realization that I can, have those things happen in my life and not get hung up on the fact that they're not resolved instantaneously.
Yeah.
And the fact that there are things that we go through that are going to take time to process and to heal from. And that's the beautiful thing about having a relationship with Jesus, is that he walks with us through those seasons. And so all that to say, like, this song just kind of leapt out at me as like an opportunity to be somewhat vulnerable. And Dustin kind of ran with the concept and the lyric, and we kind of landed on the chorus of that song fairly quickly, and it all kind of came into place. And as I looked back at it, it was for me kind of, it came out of an experience I had a few years ago. And that's kind of, when you're writing, you're trying to usually write from a perspective or tell a story, whether it's your own story or somebody else's. And a lot of times when we're writing, we're thinking of lyrics. I'm trying to put myself in there and think, okay, what is this song saying to me? What do I want it to say to somebody else? If it's not, being written from somebody else's perspective. And for me, it very quickly became a personal song. And it's another one we just started recently playing live too. And I think the response to it's been really solid. And I'm excited to be out on the road this year playing both of these brand new songs.
Yeah, I love it when bands and artists are raw and real. You'll hear a lot of songs and they're good, but I really love it when we write from being honest, and actually talk about the issues that we go through. Because a lot of people think just because you got, these, like you guys and whoever else, they're on stage, they think, man, they got it all worked out and everything looks so great in their lives. And, everyone's human, and you guys go through so many things and probably more than, the people watching you. And so I love it when people are raw and honest and sing about it, because that when you're going through it, you're also, when you sing about it, you're healing as you're singing, but also you're ministering to other people that is going through the exact same thing that you are. So
Well, I think,
Yeah.
and I think there's an important part to everything we're writing. There's an intentionality. It's an honesty from our end, but it's also a message to the listener. I think part of the conversation that day, because Chris experienced, because we've experienced it, that a lot of times in our Christian world, it's always about the sudden miracle, right? Like, well, God can fix you, God can heal you immediately, and very few times does that happen. It can happen, but the problem is when it doesn't happen, people feel like failures, or they feel like they're not good enough, and so part of like what we try to get across with these thoughts, even in the difference and in this, when we're talking about hope, is uh, a heart on the mend is not a heart that's fully healed. It's like you're in the process, you're in the middle of that process, right? And you're getting better every day. And I'm reading this book, Practicing His Presence, by a guy from 1600, and the entire concept is I can bear all things and be content just knowing that he's with me. And that's part of the process. It's part of the healing process. And so I think for us, a lot of times it just comes down to an intentionality to our listeners, that it's not just about pop and sizzle and what's new and the things that make you feel good, but we are really truly trying to be a band that says things that make people think and gives them hope in a different way than just that immediate like gratification. Because loving Jesus is far more than just a momentary gratification. It's a contented lifestyle. It's a lifestyle that we have hope even in the most dark times of our lives. And that's where a lot of Christian music listeners are, and that's why they're listening to Christian music. They're looking for hope. And so we try to offer, we're trying to be more of that than just, hey, here's the sizzle, God's good, and
Yeah.
nothing else, right?
yeah, sure. Well, this is a fan-based podcast, and so we get questions from fans, from listeners, and we had a fan of you all, Greg from Virginia, and he wants to know the story behind your all song, "A Million Ways."
Okay. Not the
Nice.
one we anticipated.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Thanks for listening.
Thanks a lot, Greg.
Oh my goodness. I gotta think of the lyric of that song. I gotta remember. It's funny. I have this friend, it's her favorite, it's her absolute favorite song, and we never sing it live. And she's seen us probably 5 times. And she is always so mad because it's like her life song. And I'm like, I'll play it for you someday on a piano somewhere. We'll make it happen. So now I got to think. Now I need to go look up the lyrics and make sure I know all the lyrics again. I think what's funny if Mark, you were there for this one too. I think that song started as like almost like an upbeat pop thing, and it was with. You guys remember we were with Jeff Pardo, and it had like this upbeat pop going on. And we started with this lyric. Another thing where we're just looking back at our lives, and I mean, to know the journey of the last 10 years is to understand that we've had some crazy, miraculous things to be here with you tonight. Like we've been in kind of where we thought it was over, and just the way that things fell into place had to be a God thing. And so that song is kind of a reaction to that. Like, there's a million ways you've been good to me. So I'm trying to remember. So many broken pieces mercy has redeemed. I think that's it. But the biggest part of that song was I remember it being this pop beat and kind of upbeat. And there was a conversation with us and Jeff that was like, maybe we should take all of that out and just hear what the song sounds like. And do you guys remember this?
I do now.
I had completely forgotten about that, but yeah, right. I do remember that. It's so weird.
And he turned it into a piano ballad, and it was so much more meaningful and felt so much more real. And we love that song. You know what happens is you make records and you write these songs and you love these songs, but you can only play so many songs live. And so you have this tendency to forget songs, and it has nothing to do with liking the song. It's just you're always interacting with new songs. But we do hear quite often that people really do love that song, and maybe we should play it live every night.
I mean, unless you were like Taylor Swift, you could play 4 hours and do the whole catalog.
I need to.
People would get pretty bored with our show after like the second hour, I think.
The whole catalog would be more like 6 hours, going all the way back 30 years.
Yeah.
Dustin, so I this is not on our script, but have you ever, when you joined the band, obviously you did some of the songs that Matt sang, but did you ever go back to the Say It Loud album and sing, or no? You stay away from that one?
No, I mean, I would. I don't care. I sang Say It Loud. We've sang Say It Loud a few times. We've done some old stuff. I'm not exactly always sure which songs are off which records, but we have not been afraid, and I don't have any problem singing some of the old stuff.
Right.
I may be honest with you though, these guys haven't played some of these songs as much as I haven't sang them. So just because they wrote them, don't let them fool you. They don't know them either.
Yeah.
Well, you did. I mean, I've heard you sing some of the older songs, and you do really good. I'm reminded of when Tate took over the Newsboys back in the day, and we saw him. It was like his second show at the Newsboys, and they didn't have any songs of their own, and he sang "Shine," and I was like, let's not do that. Let's not do that.
That wasn't Life Fest in Wisconsin, was it?
No, it was in Kentucky. It was an old music festival called New Song. But it was, I was like, oh no, make them wonder what you got. Well, let's not do that.
Well,
sorry, Tate, for listening.
Funny stories. When I first joined, we focused so much on writing new songs and new material that we got about 2 weeks away from like a special little concert we were doing. And I had to look at Chris and Mark and be like, hey, don't you guys want to hear me sing your songs? And I remember the look on their, like, I remember the look on Chris's face. He was like, yeah, maybe we should. It was like the very first time I ever sang an older Sanctus Real song was 2 weeks before we were supposed to play a show. which was full of all old Sanctus Real songs. So that was a fun moment for me.
It was like a kid procrastinating on a homework assignment for me. It's like, I knew we'd get there and be fine. I wasn't worried about it. And I don't even think we had you play the whole song. I think we did like a verse and a chorus. And like, all right, we're good. It was just like, I don't know what it was about that time. It was, you'd think we were really intentional. You know, we had a game plan, but we didn't, you know, it was just like, we got to make this thing work, and it has to start with new songs. So we were really heavily focused on that. I mean, Dustin would come over here almost every single day because he was living in Michigan at the time, and we would just write and write and write. And I remember telling him, like, if we can write good enough songs to get the attention of the people that used to have our attention in Nashville at these record labels and these publishers, then we can get our foot back in the door to writing with people who know what they're doing. And that'll lead to getting with producers who know what they're doing. And that might lead to a record deal, which we may need. Turns out we don't need it. And so it was like, there was like, off in the distance, there was these things that we were like aiming for. And the thought of playing old Sanctus Real songs wasn't like something I didn't not want to do. It just wasn't even here. It was way behind us, I guess. So
yeah.
Dustin was the one who was persistent about, shouldn't we at least sing one of your guys' songs? I was like, we'll get there. Don't worry about it.
I had to practice. There's a lot of pressure on me.
You had it. Yeah, it was great. It worked out fine. And we do play, in our show now, we probably only play, 3 or 4 old catalog songs. I mean, we always play Forgiven.
Right.
The song he was talking about that we had him try was Redeemer, which is still a favorite that we'll pull out if we're playing like an acoustic show. We play Promises sometimes.
A medley of Lead Me and Whatever You're Doing.
You ever tried I'm Not All Right?
Many times. Many times. We actually had that as part of our opener.
Those vocals are heavy, like to sing. Like I can't imagine. That's some big notes.
They're fine, man. That's shocking, I know, but I actually love singing that song, honestly.
Yeah.
It's a fun one still.
I came from a rock and roll background. I love the screaming.
So you all kind of hinted around to it. Chris, you had just said that, you know, when Dustin first got to the band, you were every weekend writing. But what does that writing process look like for you all now? Is it, I know you even said before that you all had like a writing workshop, summer camp type situation. Is it kind of all over the place? Or Dustin, are you the type that's like, I have voice memos that are, knee deep on just different riffs and different whatever. And the same with you, Chris or Mark, on just different riffs on the guitar or different like kind of styles on drums and like, different ideas. Like, how does that work for you all?
Varies, I think, quite a bit. A lot of times Chris sends us tracks a lot, which I love, and you get these vibes. Since we don't live together, those little writing camps are just, honestly, they're just, we just kind of get with our publisher and say, hey, they're coming down for a week. Can you get, 5 writes this week, and we'll just get as many as we can while we're all together. But we don't have a set thing. I don't do a lot of voice memos for ideas for the band because I find that when we're together, our conversations lead to ideas that we usually end up writing up about. And I've kind of not even walked in with ideas for content because I don't know, it's like over the years, it's usually conversations that lead to that. And then you find out, and then it's not just me driving a narrative. It's always a group thing where, okay, this seems to be on all of our hearts. This is probably the topic we need to write about. So I do have a ton of voice memos. I usually don't use those for what we do with the band because I love the camaraderie of that part of it. And so I do end up doing, and then I love getting a concept and then like we did with On the Mend, just working through it lyrically and finding something that feels unique and kind of fresh. And but we don't really have a set way of doing it, other than, hey, here's an idea. What do you think of this type of thing?
Yeah. This last week we did some writing, and I think each one of those started a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of typical, like Dustin's saying, sometimes it's nice to come in very open-minded without anything set. For me, I do like to have a few musical ideas in my pocket just in case, because I do find sometimes when you're walking into these writes with other people, because we are a band, like it's really easy to let the vibe that is naturally us take a back seat when you're just trying to write a song with some of these writers, because it just becomes very basic, just to get the ideas flowing, more or less. That's why it can be basic, very basic chord progression on a keyboard or maybe on a guitar. And I find if I at least have some kind of interesting musical thing I come in with, it doesn't have to be like this big produced thing, but if it's a chord progression or something that makes it feel a little bit like us to start, I do like to offer those up, because a lot of times guys are open to writing over anything that's halfway musically decent. And then it can morph from there. There's a lot of times you bring in a musical idea, you start writing to it, you love it, and then what you're writing about pulls it out of that vibe and takes it somewhere else. So it's not super often, but it does happen.
Like a million ways.
Yeah, a million ways. And thank goodness, like there's been plenty of moments like that. I think there was another instance where that happened with another producer where, it started off very pop, and it was like, we kind of had said before we went in there, let's just keep the elements very organic. And we liked where the song was going. We had to take that pause and tell the producer, like, this is great, but it needs to sound more natural. And I think if you know what you want, it's very helpful, or at least have a good idea of like the ingredients you want when you're writing a song. It helps to kind of shape it so that in the end, it hopefully still sounds like us. That's something at least I really try to make sure of when we go in and we co-write. But there's all kinds of ideas we have that sometimes we finish on our own too, and we don't go in with co-writers. So it happens all different ways.
It's when you throw Mark some brushes and you're like, all right, play quietly.
How did you know?
If you only knew the story of my life.
It's funny.
It is, isn't it, though? Like, sadly, this day and age, so many times, except for on the difference. The difference, we made sure we let Mark do his thing. And that was like, that was kind of last minute. We're like, yeah, it made all the difference. That, and we had one of our original bass players come in and track bass on it for us too. So it has all the guts of a real Sanctus Real song.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to shift gears a little bit. We like to do this with first-time guests, and our listeners love this part. We're going to do a thing called Favorite Things. So we'll just throw a word at you guys, and you give us your favorite thing in that category. Sound good? All right. Favorite food?
Tacos.
Oh, man. I'm gonna honor my wife here, Korean barbecue.
Because I know you live close to it down there in Kentucky, I'm gonna say Skyline Chili.
No.
I love Skyline.
Somebody does. All right. Jacob, is that you who said it?
Yeah. Jacob, yeah.
Yeah,
dude,
bro.
it's so good. Yeah.
He failed me as another Chris. No, I'm joking.
I'll convert you. Just give me some time.
Yeah. Favorite movie?
Man,
that depends on the day.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ten Commandments.
That's a first.
The Chosen.
We've been doing this 4 years, and I've never heard of the thing.
Yeah. Good for you.
I was already gonna make that joke and say The Passion of the Christ. Or something, the only thing I ever watched. It's the only movie I've ever seen.
You watch
it with kids and everything.
We only watch Christian movies. I honestly I love at least it's high on the list. The Dark Knight, the Batman movie.
That's close to the Ten Commandments.
Yeah. they both have Christian principles in them somewhere.
Yeah.
You just have to look harder at the Dark Knight, just a little harder. Dig a little deeper.
I'll throw out a random one. That Thing You Do. It's an old Tom Hanks movie.
Mm-hmm.
About a young band that comes out and pulls off a one-hit wonder song, and it's kind of the journey of this little band that rises up and then falls apart. But that movie came out literally right when we were starting our band, and so I loved it when it came out.
Very spiritual movie, Nacho Libre.
Yes,
that's my favorite.
You redeemed yourself from Skyline.
Skyline chili.
He eats Skyline as he watches Nacho Libre.
Hey,
that's a Friday night over here.
You just quoted another one of my closely favorite movies that I'm afraid to admit I'm a Christian, but Dumb and Dumber.
Oh yeah.
Then you went and did something like that and totally redeemed yourself.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah.
Mark, you reminded me of another movie when you mentioned That Thing You Do. Have y'all ever seen the movie Yesterday about the Beatles?
Yes, the Beatles.
Yeah, it's
interesting.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
caught part of that once. I never did get to finish it, but yeah, it seemed like a cool movie.
Seemed like one. It was good. It
Seems like it.
Saw the previews. Thought it was great.
It's a great movie. I actually have it on Blu-ray. You can come over here, Mark, and we'll watch it.
Oh, all right.
Dad, what's Blu-ray?
As long as there's some Skyline chili, I'll be there.
I know. I'll fire up the Blu-ray player that's in the closet.
Yeah.
I'll get my laser disc out and we'll watch it.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
It takes about 5 minutes for it to warm up.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Do you guys have a show to binge or watch? The Chosen.
I was gonna say it, but I've never seen it. I never seen it. I never watched it. I love Jesus still.
Yeah, is this confessional time? I've only seen the first 2 episodes of that series. Probably a bad thing to admit in this day and age.
That's right, I have to.
There went half our audience right there. They're like,
our next guest, we got Dallas Jenkins. Come on, Dallas.
I like to watch. There's a lot of Apple TV shows that have been on recently. I don't know, the show Severance. I was into. It just ended the season 2.
Yeah.
By the look on the other Chris's face, you really redeemed yourself with that one.
Well, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't started it yet. I watched the first episode and I'm starting to get into it, but I have 2 toddlers and a baby almost here, so like I don't have time to really sit and watch.
The best Apple show though is Ted Lasso.
I was just talking about that. Yeah, with somebody that was just here like a little bit ago, dropping off my daughter, and I told him, I was like, man, I did like that, but I haven't even finished the most recent season. Like I maybe got halfway through it, and I don't know what happened. Just life. I guess it didn't grab me like the first season was just great.
Yeah.
How many are there now? 3?
3, yeah, and they're going to do a 4th one. But I don't know why they took a few years off, but yeah.
Mark, you have one?
oh yeah, I forgot it's my turn, isn't it? I'm so used to not talking.
This is pulling you out to talk, make you talk.
To be honest, I'm not that big of a TV show movie guy. My wife is way into, whatever is the hip new show or whatever. She's a photographer, so she'll literally sit there on the couch with her laptop and edit photos while binge watching whatever. So I catch a lot of shows just kind of, over her shoulder for a minute, between doing other things. I was going to say Severance. That's really the only recent show that I kind of got into. And that was Chris's fault. Sure enough, we were like driving down. I think we were driving down to Nashville from Ohio. And we were talking about it. He presented the concept of the show to me. And it was like, I had heard of the show, but didn't really know what it was about. But when he explained it to me, I was like, that sounds really weird. And then sure enough, I put on my headphones and I watched like 4-hour-long episodes in a row.
It was really weird.
Was instantly sucked in. It was kind of crazy. So yeah, that's a pretty amazing show. For some discretion.
Yeah.
It's for more mature
audience.
audiences. Maybe pray before you watch each episode.
Find what Christian value you can get out of it. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
there.
Right. But yeah, very clever. Shoot, I don't know. That might be about all I've got. Yeah, I've watched a lot of YouTube drum videos. If you want to know who the killer drummers are on YouTube, I can tell you that. No, don't care. Okay, fine. Next question.
Good.
What's his name from Red Hot Chili Peppers? He plays with no shirt on. I think, Mark, you need to start playing with no shirt on.
No, that's not gonna happen now.
No, but again, that would be worse than watching Severance. I mean,
Dustin immediately said no.
That would be way more offensive.
Canceled.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
Dustin, did you say? I don't remember if you said one.
I don't have one.
All right.
I only watch things with my kids. Honestly, I don't watch a lot of
Bluey.
shows. Bluey. I've watched a lot of Bluey. Actually, I watched 8 episodes of Bluey today.
Yeah, that's a great show.
With my 5-year-old. So
it legit is a great show.
Yeah, it's good. It's solid.
Wow. Whoa. Wait a second. What the heck is Bluey?
Oh,
no.
All of you know what Bluey is but me?
You don't have any young kids anymore, man. It's a young kids show that's really well done.
You guys just made me feel really old. Every one of you just made me feel old.
Your next 4-hour trip, binge Bluey.
I'll tell you the good episodes.
Hey,
there's something that'll make you cry.
That's what I'm saying. Especially now that you have older kids, Mark, it will probably bring you back to be like, oh.
All right. I could use some of that in my life. I'll try it.
All right, do y'all have a favorite musical artist of all time? Or like most?
I'll go first. Tom Petty, all time. That's easy.
We could have all answered that for Chris.
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, this is your time to tell us about all of those YouTube drummers.
Just pick one. Just pick one.
Who is
Mark.
it?
Oh man. Jeez, I don't know. U2 would be my favorite band if I had to pick one. But it's hard for me to pick just one. I love all sorts of music. But man, favorite drummers, that's a long list. Chad Smith of the Chili Peppers, like you're just talking about, you watch some fun drum videos of him on there. Guys like Thomas Prigden, Cindy Blackman, Santana.
I'll be back, guys.
Yeah.
You done?
Leave. Yeah, we'll end it. That's fine.
Dustin was going to start playing the Jeopardy tune.
I just know that list could potentially be very long, as Mark's talking about drummers.
I do like listening to, I don't know if you've seen them, Mark, but the Drumeo, how they'll, their YouTube channel, they'll have a drummer come in and listen to a song they've never listened to without the drum track. And then they will have them play that song how they hear the drums. And it's always fascinating to me, like how different drummers are like, okay, some of them will actually like, kind of write their own sheet music to play it. And some are just like, nah, I'm feeling it. And they'll just go at it.
Yeah. I think I've watched probably just about all of those videos, and I love it. Like, I think it's one of the most brilliant ideas on YouTube. Yeah, it's fun stuff. If you're not into watching drum videos, if you've never given it a try, I really encourage it. It will become your new obsession, drummer or not. You'll love it. I promise.
Dustin, your favorite?
Well, I've got like 3 favorite drummers. I'm just kidding. I don't know any drummers at all. It's tough. I mean, favorite's tough. I would maybe classify this as the most influential one. I got this 1981 concert in Central Park, Simon and Garfunkel record when I was about 12 years old. And I listened to that thing every night to where I knew every word on the thing. And it honestly is probably the thing that made me want to play music. I love the harmonies. I love the chord structures. Um, I don't know if I would say that Simon and Garfunkel is my all-time favorite artist, but I think they have the greatest, probably the biggest impact on me as to want to do music. And I like a wide variety of music, and through the years, there's been bands that I love, there's been songs that I loved, but none of them. I think those years from about 12 to 18, listening to that record literally every night, kind of put them in a place where I felt like they're probably the ones that influenced me to love music the way that I do. So that's what I'll go with. Simon and Garfunkel.
Last one. Do y'all have a favorite podcast?
I think there's this one called the Christian Guys.
Wah, wah, wah.
Like you haven't heard that before, right? I don't. I mean, I
Or
really don't.
or audiobooks, because sometimes I will not listen to podcasts. I'll just go audiobooks or read
I
books.
prefer real books,
Yeah, see, I'm
and
so ADD. I'm like, what did I just read? 6 pages in, and I have to reread them.
I can relate to that.
Dude, I'm with you. I've been doing the audiobook thing for a while now because same thing. It's totally, just modern culture, I guess. I've gotten so screwed up from looking at a screen all the time that
Yeah,
I'll read a paragraph and not know what I just read. But
yep.
for some
this is
reason I
not
can
this is not a good thing.
I
I
know
know.
it's not a good
I
thing.
know.
This is a bad thing.
But if I hear something, I've been forced to use my ears for everything my whole life at this point, like being a musician. But yeah, I'll listen to audiobooks and podcasts nonstop. I eat that stuff up. But yeah, it's funny actually, Dustin. You mentioned practicing the presence earlier, Brother Lawrence. I literally just got that on audiobook and just listened to it like last week. I'd
It's not
never
the, it's
I'd
not the
never read it
same.
before, but
It's not the same.
it is. It was great.
And it is. It's
I
great.
loved it.
Honestly, I've never listened to an audiobook in my life. I've never have. I don't even know what it's like. I love to read, so I've never done that. I do like. There is one. I'll say there's one history podcast. I love history. I always have. I was going to be a history teacher when I first went to school. There's a couple, and there's hardcore history by a guy. I think it's Dan Carlin maybe. Um, and then there's one called American History or American Storytellers. And they're just great. They dive kind of deep into, and that's kind of how I like to pass my time if I have a long trip. The truth of the matter is, I'll just be honest, and then I love when I'm in the car. I actually just love silence.
Yeah.
We don't get a lot of silence in our lives. We all got a lot of kids, and we do music for a living. So sometimes that feels like work. Um, and so a lot of times I just don't have anything planned. I just like just actually hearing myself think.
Yeah.
So I don't do a ton of podcasts. I'm not like a podcast guy. So, but we'll do the history thing when I've got like a long trip. So
So
What's
Dustin,
that other one, Chris?
there's one called History That Doesn't Suck.
I haven't seen that one. I need to look it up.
It's actually really good. He goes through all American history, like from the start, so the beginning of the podcast is very beginning of America to like modern day, but it's like reenactments kind of throughout the podcast. So he kind of like tells the story, and he's a history teacher, like a professor. So he like dives deep into the
That's cool.
stories and like does a lot of research to give like other stories that happened during that. So it's like
Yeah,
you'll get like a lot of cool things. But
and
yeah,
it's an easy name to remember. So that's
it
good.
is. Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah.
History that doesn't suck.
Yeah. And Chris, you have
Chris?
one?
Yeah, there's one that I used to listen to. I'm not sure if he's still doing it, but it's called And the Writer Is. And it's a songwriter, does a lot of pop music, and he has all kinds of different writers on. They talk about very well-known songs and who wrote them, and usually interviews them and how the song came to be. It's a really cool podcast. I think there's actually audiobook wise, I haven't listened to many. The one that I've listened to, I guess, the most recent book I read was by Bono, that he did. I forget what he called it. Was it called Surrender? And he did an audio version of it. And I read the book first, and then I listened to it. And I will say it definitely enhanced the stories that I already read, because he's telling them, and he's kind of doing these voices throughout when he's talking about like his lads growing up with, like, he'll go into like character, and
Yeah.
he's a great storyteller. So it really did make the book all the more interesting and memorable to me. So
Yeah.
it's a good one.
So something that will enhance, not joking. Something that I have found to really enjoy are audiobooks that have like a full cast. So it is like old school radio TV, where it's like they are sound effects, different characters talking, but it's all audio. So it's up to your imagination to just like picture it and do whatever. But like those are really cool.
That's awesome. That's great.
So you all
Justin,
have
sounds great.
Yeah.
Hey man, whatever. Y'all need
Dustin's
sounds all the time, and
Dustin's like, that sounds just as good as those drummer videos.
yeah, man. Well, I do understand the Bono thing, where it's the guy who wrote the book telling his own stories. I totally get that. That would make a lot of sense. That would be more interesting. I just a book that's not like that. Whatever. Everybody's got their preferences. I don't care. You guys, you do you. Everyone do you. All you listeners out there, do what you like. Do it. Just read, watch, listen. Just don't bother me with it.
That's funny. Your manager's going to call you up and say that y'all need to start a podcast.
Like, oh,
We'll call it the Other Christian Music Guys podcast.
Yeah. So what is next for you all, and how can our listeners and viewers keep up with you?
well, next Mark's gonna go listen to an audiobook, and Chris is gonna play a Blu-ray.
Eaton Scotland.
Fire up the old Blu-ray.
And I'm gonna go read a book. It's gonna be awesome.
Hey, I don't mean to cut you off real quick, but do y'all remember the $5 bins at Walmart, the movies?
Yeah.
I'd sit there for hours digging and digging and digging for something good. It'd be like a pile of movies on the ground.
Dude,
anyway, squirrel.
Huge source of entertainment.
What's next, Mark and Chris? Have we even talked about this? Are we plan on still doing stuff, aren't we?
Probably more of the same. We're just going to write
basis.
some more songs and record them and put them out. And then we'll play some shows, and then we'll write some more songs.
We've got another song ready to roll that we're going to be releasing. It's a great song. Honestly, I think it's a powerful song. We just released The Difference. We're going to take that to radio here soon. And then, you just do the things and see what doors God opens up with touring and, being on the road. We're kind of in a great situation where we get to kind of pick and choose, and we need shows, but like we get to be home with our families quite often, which is beautiful, and still write songs. So we're just trying to write the best songs we can. We did a little writing thing last week and came up with a couple great songs that we love. And we've got songs to release. One of the things we've been doing is just writing and recording as much as possible so that we're releasing songs all year round. And so we've already released 2 this year. We know we have 2 more pretty much ready to go. And we got a lot in process. So we hope to just release another record. I'm not sure exactly the number, but just to kind of keep the music train going. We feel like we're in a good season of writing and the messages and what we want to speak to people. And I think that for us, that's kind of the target. I think just being a consistent band with our messaging and loving people well, and just trying to look like Jesus is a big part of who we are. So, there's a lot that bands do, and there's a lot of just everyday stuff. But for us, it's really just trying to accomplish the purpose of who we are and what we're called to do.
We were talking about it earlier, live music. But have you all ever thought about doing a live album?
Well, we actually have one.
Okay.
From a prison.
Oh, nice.
Which we gotta continue a conversation. What we're gonna do with it? It's quite good.
So you haven't released it yet?
We've released a couple of songs to like YouTube. They filmed it, and but we have all the rights, and we did the whole. I forget how many songs we do, guys. Like 11.
Yeah, probably something like that. I think it was like a 45-minute set.
Is that the prison in Tennessee?
It's in Cleveland.
Okay. Because Corey Asbury did something like that, and then Stephen Curtis did something like that. But I think they were...
It was the same organization.
Okay.
But that organization goes to different prisons.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
they set up various prisons, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, to wrap up, we'd like to see if you guys be willing to share something that God's been doing in your life recently that would help build our viewers and our listeners' faith.
We're just waiting to see who wants to go first.
Yeah. Bueller?
Yeah, I'll go first, I guess. It's going to be 30 years we've been doing this, coming up next year. And I guess I've just been reflecting on stuff lately because of that, and looking at some of the, the highs and the lows, all the different things we've experienced. And recently we had to go through this thing that we didn't really expect to get ourselves into because of a vehicle purchase that we made. And long story short, I think through this really wild and trippy ride of having to even get a lawyer involved in this circumstance, I think for all the situations we've been through as a band, I think I'm just learning that I don't have control, and nor do I want control. I just want to be able to surrender the things that do happen to God and let Him be the one to decide what's right and what's wrong, and not have to feel this pressure on my own self to bring justice, because it's not mine to bring. So that can be in these big situations, or that can be in the little everyday situations for me. Just learning to be at peace with what the day brings, and knowing that God's in control ultimately is something that I'm trying to become more aware of, and really breathe that in and out in all the things that I encounter, whether it's silly things like social media, or big things like somebody trying to steal a big piece of property from you.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. He just pretty much summed up our all of our last month. So yeah, what Chris said.
Yeah.
There's always crazy band things happening beneath the surface that the public will never know about.
Yeah.
Right.
Hopefully they just hear the music. But yeah, there's so many ups and downs in the music business, quote unquote, the business of it. And we just try not to get hung up in it. Like Dustin was saying, we just try to stay true to the purpose that we feel that we have. That is to write songs that we hope impact people. And I will say, it does seem that more often than not, when we're either on the verge of having a song that's going to really make a big impact, or, other things that we're working on, I do feel like we do run into more crazy things in those seasons, certain kinds of opposition that we may have never even experienced before. Like, I don't think it's an accident. Yeah. And I've seen it plenty of times over the course of this band. And so who knows, maybe some of these new songs that we're about to release are going to be some of the most impactful we've ever had. And, the bigger the struggle to get there, sometimes I just, in those moments now, I'm just realizing, like, this is all God's anyways. The fact that we're still here, like, it's because he's allowing us to be. So if he's allowing us to be, then I have to believe that if I'm pursuing him in it, that he's going to make the things happen that need to happen, and the songs that need to be out there come to be. So,
well, guys, thank you so much for chatting with us. Your all's latest single, "The Difference," is out. Be looking all this year for brand new music from you guys. And Dustin, Mark, and Chris, thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thanks for
Thank you
having us.
guys.
thank you guys.